Hi, I'm Tom Ahawk from CustomHawks.com. I'm going to show you how to make a fire in the rain. It's not raining right now, and I'm too lazy to come out here when it is raining. But if you do this the way I show you, you'll have a nice cooking fire in the rain. So what we're going to start is we're going to look for a tree to use as a backstop to help with wind and stuff like that. And this one looks good enough. Then we're going to use a log, something about this big, and put it right up against there. It's better if you have two. Maybe a little bit thicker than this, but this one will work fine for what we're doing. If you have two, you can put them on either side of the log. So right now we're just going to use this. It's okay if you find nice wet stuff, because these are not going to burn. Once you get those in place, you need to find kindling. Now, it doesn't matter, even if you're in the middle of the summer and everything's green, you can still find dead grass. What you got to do, right now the dead grass is kind of showing itself, but what you're looking for is last year's dead grass. Because even in the fall, like right now, you can see this stuff is kind of dying, but this is not going to make good kindling. But if you come over here, you can see some of this stuff is from last year, and sometimes you got to dig through the green stuff, and down towards the bottom, you'll find last year's foliage that has died but is still there. And that's what you're going to use as kindling. And it doesn't take a whole lot, but you're going to make nice little packets of it like this. You don't want to pack it too close together though. So as long as it's not laying on the ground, you should be able to get stuff that might be wet, but it'll dry out real easily as long as it's nice and loose. When you look for sticks, don't look on the ground. Everything on the ground is going to be wet. It's going to be soaked into the mud and everything else. If you want to find the best sticks that are, the outside might be wet, but they're dry enough to burn, you're going to look up, not down. And what you're looking for is you're looking for sticks that have dried and died and dropped off the trees, but never made it to the ground because they got caught by other branches. For example, right here. This stuff right here, these are dead. They dropped off a long time ago, but they're just kind of hanging there. And they've been there and they've been weathered for a long time up in the air, so they're very, very dry, and they'll catch in no time at all. So we take the smallest sticks we can, and we don't need the tomahawk for any of this stuff. We're going to take the smallest sticks we can, the very small ones, and we're going to take those and lay them on top of our kindling. This stuff is really good. Look how thin that is. That stuff will start real easily, and that in turn will catch everything else on fire, and we'll have a fire in no time. But if you're just making a little cooking fire and it's raining, there's no reason to make great big fires like that. So you keep them around this big, and you're going to feed the fire as you're cooking. You're not going to come up with a big blazing fire to make a big bed of ashes to cook on. You're just going to make a very small cooking fire. So you don't need a whole lot of wood, but you have to pay attention to it constantly and keep feeding it. So once we've made our pile here, we want to keep it dry, so we're going to get two sticks that we can shove into the ground and put our cover over it. Usually you want something kind of alive, so we're going to use live branches, something like this. Once you get that, you want to kind of sharpen the ends, so just cut it at an angle. except that it breaks. It doesn't have to be real high. Might want it a little bit higher than that. About like that. Find another one. Cut the ends off. These things cut a lot better if you got something to lay it on when you cut it. If you hit right here, it's going to bounce off. You want to cut it right there, except if you got aim like me, it's going to take you 5 tries. And maybe sharpen this a little bit by cutting the end at an angle. If you can hit it, you got a nice angle on that, and you can stick that into the ground. Now, remember that it's raining. So normally you're thinking, I'm going to put a tarp over this, but it doesn't take a tarp. You can use a piece of cloth. As long as you've got to get at a good angle, the water's going to run off the cloth, and you want it to run behind your piece of wood here. This isn't in the ground very well. You can use cloth, you can use your shirt. I'm not taking on my shirt because it'll drive the ladies wild, but we're going to use another shirt, and you just drape it over. Now, the water's going to drip down that way. Your fire is pretty close to it, but that's okay because the water's dripping on it. So the water will keep it from burning, and the heat, instead of coming up and melting or burning your tarp, it's just going to dry it out faster. And that's all that happens. You're fine doing it this way. You might want to put it closer down so that it drips all the way behind the log you have in the back there. I'm going to show this part without the cover on it because you don't really need it for what you'll be able to see better what I'm doing without that cover. Okay, to get your fire started, you're going to use a lot of really small sticks like this. This is mostly stuff that was hanging down, as I told you earlier, from tree branches. So what I've done is I've taken that kindling and most of the really small sticks, and I've leaned it up against the log. So it's leaned up against this log, and put the smallest ones on the bottom and gradually work my way up to bigger ones. That way I can light it from the bottom on the smaller ones, and it should, the fire should build up until it gets to the larger ones. So little by little, your fire will start to build. You can start putting bigger and bigger sticks on it. But you don't want to make it too big. Once their bigger sticks are caught, We're going to take it off of this log and not worry about getting under it anymore, which I may have done it too soon here, but we'll see. And all you're worried about now is keeping a very steady stream of fuel. So you want to keep the fuel steady, but not big. Might have to blow on it a little bit to coax it along. And once you're no longer worried about the fire going out, you can put your fire dogs on it. You want to keep the fire small enough to where it's not going to burn these sticks. It might dry them out over time, but we're going to let this die down a little bit. And once we let it die down, we're going to feed one piece in at a time to keep the fire going, but not to catch these sticks on fire. Remember, these are live, and if you can find a sapling, it's better. Now, you see how high these flames are going. It's a little bit too high right now, but even with these flames coming all the way up here, remember you've got your cover here, but it's okay because the cover's wet because it's raining. So the water's going to drip down here, but it's still making your cover wet, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it burning your cover. And that's how you make a fire in the wild when it's raining. Don't forget you got your meat fork, and you're going to use it. You're going to put your meat on that, and you could roast it there, sit it there, turn it over once in a while. And that's how you make a good cooking fire.